History is not set in stone, it is a delicate thread woven in ways unseen. In a world where the past is not what it seems, a mystery unfolds across time and space. When two unlikely figures are drawn into a web of secrets, their journey will take them to places beyond imagination, where the fate of more than one world hangs in the balance. Welcome to Alastair Reynolds' Century Reign. The novel Century Reign is a standalone work, separate from the other narrative universes Alastair Reynolds has explored in his other novels. Spanning 626 pages, it was first published in 2004 and blends elements of noir detective fiction, alternate history, and space opera. As one of Reynolds' rare forays into soft science fiction, another example being House of Suns, Century Reign prioritizes narrative flexibility over strict scientific realism. However, this aspect does not diminish the novel in any way. The scope of the story is somewhat smaller than what one might expect from Reynolds. Without delving into spoilers, while the premise suggests potential for a broader narrative, its execution results in a more constrained setting than one might expect. In terms of originality, Century Reign stands out primarily due to its genre fusion. The combination of noir detective fiction with alternate history and space opera is not commonly seen in science fiction. The way these distinct narrative threads are interwoven is particularly unexpected and diverges from traditional genre conventions. However, when examined individually, the detective plot, the alternate history, setting, and the space opera elements are not particularly groundbreaking on their own. The cast of characters is relatively small compared to other works by Reynolds, though not to the extent that it feels like an intimate or minimalist narrative. Regarding critical reception, Century Reign was nominated for the Locus Award for Best Science Fiction in 2005 and the British Science Fiction Association Award for Best Novel in 2004. However, it did not secure either award. Among general readers, it holds an average rating of 4.0 out of 5 stars, based on aggregated reviews from Goodreads, Library Thing, and Amazon. Century Reign takes place 300 years from now. Earth has been rendered uninhabitable due to the technological catastrophe known as the Nanocaust. Archaeologist Verity Auger specializes in the exploration of its surviving landscape. Now, her expertise is required for a far greater purpose. Auger has the chance to experience her life's work in a way she never imagined. But beneath its familiar surface lies a danger of unimaginable scale. This is one of the rare occasions where I feel the need to issue a specific spoiler warning, not for discussing the plot itself, but for analyzing the novel's strengths and weaknesses. By the way, I made a genuine effort to keep the plot synopsis as spoiler-free as possible. There's only so much one can do, but I believe my version is actually less revealing than the synopsis on Century Reign's back cover, or whatever you prefer to call it. In any case, from this point on, there will be major spoilers for Century Reign, so consider yourself warned. One of Century Reign's most distinctive features is its genre blend, particularly the combination of alternate history and space opera. However, one of my main issues with the novel is the way these two plots run in parallel from the very beginning. While they do eventually converge, this structure creates some pacing and engagement challenges. The space opera storyline starts off reasonably intriguing but never fully shifts into high gear. Its world building, while promising, feels like it stalls midway. Meanwhile, the Noir alternate history plot takes a bit longer to gain momentum. The apparent disconnect between the two narratives can also be somewhat confusing early on. The novel's midsection is primarily dedicated to developing the noir and alternate history elements, which do find their footing and successfully introduce tension, suspense, and even elements of horror. In the final act, the focus shifts back to the space opera plot. While the transition feels somewhat abrupt, the conclusion itself remains engaging and the novel never becomes dull or directionless. So this is by no means a harsh criticism from my part. That said, from a structural standpoint, I believe the story could have been more effective if the space opera plot's opening had been omitted entirely. Instead, beginning solely with the noir alternate history storyline would have allowed readers to uncover the truth about the universe alongside its protagonists. The necessary background for the space opera elements could then have been gradually revealed through Auger's accounts, something the novel already does to a significant extent. This approach would have heightened the mystery surrounding the nature of the so-called real Earth and its alternate counterpart, making for a more compelling and immersive reveal. Another point of criticism, in my view, concerns the motivations of the antagonists, specifically those in the space opera storyline. We learn that there was a war between various human factions and that this conflict has been reignited, pulling the protagonists into the ensuing chaos. However, the specifics of how certain factions operate and, more importantly, why they act as they do, remain somewhat unclear even by the novel's end. Similarly, the alternate history aspect is unique in its own right, depicting a technologically stunted Earth in the mid-20th century due to a World War II that never happened. Characters in the novel reflect on how what might seem like a positive deviation, after all, saving millions of lives is a good thing, right? But it also led to unforeseen negative consequences. Beyond technological stagnation, the specter of autocracy still looms, even over nations that would typically be considered firmly democratic and liberal. In this regard, Century Reign presents a thought-provoking premise. However, this aspect could have been explored in greater depth had the novel focused solely on alternate history rather than the blending of genres that we got. Overall, Century Reign stands out as a unique blend of noir, alternate history and space opera. However, this very strength also serves as a weakness, as the different narrative threads do not always weave together seamlessly. Each storyline, the space opera elements and the noir alternate history plot, brings interesting ideas to the table, such as the consequences of technological dependence and thought-provoking what-if scenarios. Yet these aspects feel somewhat underdeveloped, as they remain secondary to the larger narrative. Century Reign is not Reynolds' strongest work, but for those already familiar with his novels, it offers a fascinating look at his earlier storytelling, and despite its flaws, it remains an engaging and worthwhile read. If you liked this video, you may also enjoy the other reviews and content on my channel. Feel free to leave a comment if you want to discuss the novels or if you want to suggest other books that I should review in the future. Please consider upvoting and subscribing, it is much appreciated. Thank you for watching and until next time.